From the very first moments of the trailer, it's clear that 1969 is going to explore the origins of the Dutton Empire in ways we've never seen before. Young John is still a child, wide-eyed and learning the harsh realities of ranch life. Yet there's a fire in him already, a spark that will eventually grow into the relentless determination we see in Yellowstone. The trailer immediately sets up this tension between innocence and responsibility, showing that even at 10 years old, John is already being shaped by the land, the animals, and the weight of family expectations. Spencer, older now and still commanding, carries the presence of a patriarch whose influence stretches across generations. There's a quiet, almost heartbreaking recognition in his eyes. A man who knows time is slipping, whose every word and action will leave a mark that echoes far beyond Montana. And then there's the subtle hints of history pressing in from every side. Vietnam looming over families, counterculture movements challenging traditional ways, and civil rights shaking the very foundations of society. Even in the remote expanses of the Yellowstone Ranch, these forces aren't just background, they're catalysts that will test the family in ways we've never witnessed before. But it's not all heavy and grim. There's also the pulse of adventure, of rodeo life and cowboy culture, seeping through the trailer in scenes of dust, motion, and competition. Young John is learning what it truly means to live as a Dutton, not just to inherit a ranch, but to inherit responsibility, courage, and the complex moral code that defines this family. The trailer manages to balance these layers perfectly. We see moments of tenderness between Spencer and John, hints of looming conflict with Elizabeth, and fleeting glimpses of the challenges that will define the next generation. And yet, for all the historical weight and family drama, there's a sense of suspense that hangs over every frame. You know that choices made here in 1969 will reverberate for decades. Every glance, every whispered conversation, feels like it's charged with consequences. The trailer doesn't just tease the story, it almost dares you to guess what comes next, leaving your heart pounding as you imagine how the family fractures, how alliances will shift, and how the Dutton name will survive storms both human and natural. What's incredible is how the trailer conveys all of this without feeling overloaded or confusing. The narrative is crystal clear. This is a family under pressure, a young John at the crossroads of childhood and destiny, and a Montana that is as unforgiving as it is beautiful. And then there's the emotional undertone that really hits hard, those small moments between father, grandfather, and son that make the weight of history tangible. You can almost feel the invisible threads connecting the past to the present, the choices of one generation shaping the fate of the next. The trailer teases heartbreak, triumph, and moral reckoning, all while keeping the suspense taut, as though any moment could reveal a shocking twist or a devastating loss. By the end of it, you're left with a lingering sense of awe, a recognition that this isn't just a story about land or power. It's a story about family, identity, and the undeniable pull of legacy. Every shot, every line of dialogue, every glance from these young actors is layered with meaning, promising a series that will be emotionally rich, historically grounded, and thrillingly unpredictable. In short, Yellowstone 1969 isn't just a prequel, it's the foundation of the entire saga, and this trailer makes it impossible not to feel the weight and excitement of what's coming. The trailer doesn't just hint at adventure, it pulses with the first real cracks forming in the Dutton family, the kind of subtle fractures that will eventually explode into the epic conflicts we know from Yellowstone. Spencer's authority is present, firm, and unshakable, but you can already feel Elizabeth's presence looming in the background, like a quiet storm waiting to challenge his control. She's older now, stronger, and not a woman to be underestimated, and the trailer teases that she won't simply bow to family hierarchy. Her intentions seem clear: to protect her son's inheritance, to stake her claim, and to remind the Duttons that loyalty and power are never guaranteed. Even young John, just 10, is unknowingly standing at the crossroads of this tension. The trailer cleverly shows us how he's being molded not just by the land or the ranch, but by the subtle political and emotional battles of those around him. Every interaction hints at lessons learned, values absorbed, and grudges quietly forming, lessons that will define who he becomes and how he navigates the moral and ethical challenges of the family legacy. And it's not just the big names. The trailer also hints at the smaller characters, the ones whose lives will intersect with John and Spencer in ways that seem innocuous at first. but whose actions will ripple through the Dutton story for years. The subtle glances, the restrained gestures, the hushed conversations we see in the trailer all scream of secrets, unspoken alliances, and betrayals waiting to unfold. It's the kind of layered storytelling that keeps fans guessing who will rise to power, who will falter, who will break, and who will survive. What's fascinating is how the trailer balances tension with tenderness. There are fleeting moments where young John's curiosity and innocence shine. Moments where he interacts with his grandfather, where he looks up at Spencer with awe and fear, learning both how to fight and how to endure. These small moments of emotional connection are exactly what make the stakes feel so high. They remind us that every conflict, every clash, and every decision carries emotional weight. And then, just when you think you're settling into a rhythm, the trailer pulls you back into suspense with hints of rebellion and generational unrest. The late 60s are a period of seismic cultural shifts, and the trailer cleverly integrates this without ever feeling like a history lesson. There's a sense that the world beyond the ranch, Vietnam, civil rights, counterculture, is not just a backdrop, but a living force, subtly shaping the Duttons' choices and the pressures they face. Young John might be learning how to ride, how to fight, and how to survive the rodeo arenas, but he's also being educated in the unforgiving realities of a world in flux, where old values clash with new ideas and loyalty is constantly tested. And the emotional tension doesn't stop there. The trailer gives us glimpses of Elizabeth's determination, of Spencer's fading grip on control, and of the generational friction that is quietly building under the surface. Every shot is loaded with meaning. A hand on a gate, a look exchanged between characters, the quiet background of a Montana sunset that seems to foreshadow both loss and triumph. The trailer teases heartbreak, confrontation, and moments of unexpected tenderness, all while leaving viewers on edge, wondering exactly how these early tensions will escalate into the legendary conflicts between Beth, Jamie, and John that we've come to expect. And just like that, the trailer accomplishes something remarkable. It makes the past feel immediate, urgent, and deeply personal, reminding fans that every decision, every argument, and every quiet moment in 1969 will echo for decades to come, shaping the Duttons in ways both tragic and magnificent. It's the perfect setup for a series that promises suspense, emotional depth, and an unflinching look at how a legacy is built, and sometimes shattered, from the very roots up. What makes the Yellowstone 1969 trailer truly mesmerizing isn't just the family drama. It's how the series intertwines the Dutton story with the sweeping cultural and historical changes of the late 1960s. This is a time when the world outside Montana is anything but calm. The Vietnam War is raging overseas, casting long shadows over the young men of the country, and the trailer hints that the Dutton family won't be immune to its reach. John's father, rumored to be a soldier, represents the sacrifices, fears, and uncertainties that millions of families face during this turbulent era. Every glance at him in the trailer carries the weight of unspoken anxiety, the kind that comes from knowing that life can change in an instant, that the next letter from the front could alter the family's future forever. Meanwhile, the civil rights movement is shaking the foundations of the nation, and though Montana is remote, the trailer subtly reminds us that no family exists in a vacuum. These societal pressures, combined with the evolving counterculture, music, protests, and changing moral codes, provide a living, breathing backdrop for the Dutton saga. The trailer teases thrilling sequences that immerse viewers in this world, showing that being a Dutton is about more than inheritance. It's about understanding honor, courage, and survival in a society that is constantly changing. Young John's first experiences in rodeos, competitions, and interactions with the local cowboy culture promise not only adventure, but critical lessons that will define the man he becomes. These moments, when combined with the emotional weight of family expectations, create a tension that is palpable throughout the trailer. It's almost as if every dust cloud kicked up by a horse, every sunset over the sprawling Montana plains, carries with it the echoes of decisions yet to be made and the consequences that will follow. And while history looms large, the trailer doesn't let the story feel distant or academic. Instead, it's intimate, personal, and immediate, showing how global events shape individual lives in ways both subtle and dramatic. You see Spencer, older and wise, navigating these challenges, guiding young John and trying to hold the family together while the world around them seems to be shifting faster than ever. Elizabeth's return adds another layer, blending personal ambition with historical reality and showing that the Duttons are not only dealing with internal family struggles, but also with the pressures of a rapidly changing society. This section of the trailer is remarkable because it makes the stakes feel real, highly relatable, yet intensely cinematic. One of the most exciting things about the Yellowstone 1969 trailer is how strongly it leans into character evolution. Because at its heart, this story lives and dies by the people carrying the Dutton name. Young John may only be a child, but the trailer makes it clear that this is his origin story in every sense of the word. You can feel it in the way he watches the adults around him, in how he absorbs tension without fully understanding it, and in how quickly he's forced to grow up. This isn't the John Dutton we know yet, but the foundation is unmistakable. Every lesson he learns, whether it's about loyalty, sacrifice, or standing his ground, feels like a stepping stone toward the hardened rancher he'll become. And hovering over all of this is Spencer, whose presence in the trailer feels both powerful and fragile. He's no longer the restless man we once knew. He's a keeper of legacy now, aware that his time is limited and that every choice he makes will ripple forward. There's a quiet urgency to him, a sense that he's trying to prepare John not just for ranch life, but for the inevitable conflicts that come with the Dutton name. Then there's Elizabeth, and this is where the trailer really ignites speculation. She's no longer the sheltered, hopeful woman from 1923. Time has reshaped her, hardened her, and the trailer strongly suggests that she's returning with purpose. Her determination isn't loud or dramatic. It's controlled, calculated, and deeply personal. She's fighting for her son's rightful claim, and in doing so, she becomes the first true challenge to John's inheritance. That alone reframes everything we thought we knew about the Dutton family tree. Suddenly, the generational conflicts between Beth and Jamie don't feel like isolated chaos. They feel inherited, almost inevitable. This is where it all begins. And then there's the casting buzz, which the trailer cleverly fuels without giving too much away. The rumored involvement of Matthew McConaughey as John's father only adds to the emotional gravity of the story. If true, his portrayal of a soldier shaped by Vietnam would bring a quiet intensity to the role, grounding the series in sacrifice and loss. His character wouldn't just be a father, he'd be a symbol of a generation torn between duty and family, and that tension would directly shape John's upbringing. The trailer hints at this emotional distance, the kind that comes from trauma, responsibility, and survival. And it makes those father-son dynamics feel heavy with unspoken emotion. And then, of course, there's the idea that won't leave the fandom alone: the possible return of familiar faces in new roles. The mere suggestion of Isabel May re-entering the franchise, even as a different character, feels intentional. Yellowstone has always been about echoes of people, of stories, of sacrifice, and casting her as a cousin in the next generation would reinforce that idea beautifully. Her presence would serve as a living reminder of Elsa, not as a repetition, but as a reflection. Someone who carries the same spirit, the same fire, but is shaped by a different era and different struggles. And what makes all of this so compelling is that the trailer doesn't give us answers. It gives us emotional breadcrumbs. It wants us to speculate, to argue, to connect dots, and to feel invested before the story even begins. Every character introduced or teased feels essential, like a piece of a puzzle that's been missing for years. You get the sense that 1969 isn't just filling gaps, it's redefining the entire Yellowstone timeline. It's showing us that the Dutton legacy wasn't built in one generation, and it certainly wasn't built without conflict. Love, rivalry, ambition, and loss are all baked into this family, passed down like inheritance itself. And by focusing so deeply on character and casting, the trailer makes one thing clear: this series isn't relying on spectacle alone. It's relying on emotion, on performance, and on the slow, painful process of becoming who you're meant to be. By the end of this section, it's impossible not to feel the weight of what's coming, because you realize that every smile, every argument, and every quiet moment between these characters is laying the groundwork for everything Yellowstone will eventually become. By the time the Yellowstone 1969 trailer comes to an end, one thing becomes crystal clear. This series isn't just expanding the franchise, it's redefining it. Everything we thought we understood about the Dutton legacy suddenly feels deeper, heavier, and far more tragic. This isn't a story about how the ranch survived. It's about what it cost to keep it alive. 1969 represents a turning point where innocence is lost, lines are drawn, and the idea of family loyalty begins to fracture in ways that will echo for generations. Young John stands at the center of it all, unaware that the pressures surrounding him are shaping his future long before he's old enough to fight back. You can feel the inevitability in the trailer, that quiet sense of destiny pulling him forward, whether he's ready or not. Spencer's presence feels like a ticking clock, reminding us that leadership is temporary, but consequences are permanent. His guidance, his mistakes, and his sacrifices all become part of John's foundation, passed down not through speeches, but through lived experience. And then there's Elizabeth, whose return reframes the entire family narrative. Her challenge isn't just about land or inheritance, it's about recognition, justice, and the pain of being written out of a story she believes still belongs to her. That conflict alone feels like the spark that ignites everything we later see in Yellowstone, proving that this family was never united by peace, but by survival. The trailer also leaves us with a lingering sense of emotional tension tied to the era itself. The late 1960s were chaotic, uncertain, and transformative, and that energy bleeds directly into the Dutton story. War, cultural upheaval, and shifting values all press in on the ranch, forcing the family to adapt or break. And that's what makes 1969 feel so powerful. It's the moment where tradition and change collide head-on. The Duttons aren't just fighting outsiders anymore. They're fighting time, progress, and each other. The trailer doesn't rely on spectacle to sell this story. Instead, it leans into quiet moments, heavy silences, and looks that say more than words ever could. It trusts the audience to feel the weight of what's unfolding, to recognize that every small decision made here will eventually grow into something unmanageable. This is where the emotional DNA of Yellowstone is formed. This is where love becomes conditional, power becomes necessity, and family becomes both a shield and a weapon. And when the trailer fades out, it doesn't give closure. It leaves a question hanging in the air. Was the Dutton legacy ever meant to be saved, or was it always destined to tear itself apart? That unanswered question is what makes Yellowstone 1969 so compelling, so haunting, and so impossible to ignore. It promises a story filled with heartbreak, resilience, and raw humanity, reminding us that every empire has an origin, and every origin carries a price. And if this trailer is any indication, 1969 is going to be the chapter that finally shows us why the Duttons are who they are, and why their legacy still burns, no matter the cost. What truly lingers after watching the Yellowstone 1969 trailer is the realization that the Dutton legacy has always been built on fragile ground. For years, Yellowstone showed us the result of decades of hard choices, violence, loyalty, and sacrifice. But 1969 finally exposes the moment when that path became unavoidable. This is the era where the Duttons stop being just ranchers defending land and start becoming a family defined by power, control, and survival at any cost. The trailer quietly suggests that young John isn't simply inheriting a ranch, he's inheriting unresolved pain, unfinished battles, and generational expectations that were never his to carry, and yet they're placed squarely on his shoulders. There's something haunting about seeing him absorb the world around him, watching adults argue over futures he doesn't fully understand, while slowly learning that love in this family often comes with conditions. The trailer makes it clear that the lessons John learns in 1969 aren't gentle ones. They're shaped by loss, silence, and the constant reminder that weakness is never an option. Spencer's influence looms large here, not as a hero, but as a man shaped by his own regrets, trying desperately to mold the next generation before time runs out. You can feel the emotional weight of unfinished conversations, of guidance given too late or too harshly, and of love expressed through discipline rather than affection. And then there's the unspoken truth the trailer keeps circling around, that the biggest threats to the Duttons have never just come from outside forces, they come from within, from bloodlines competing for control, from promises broken long before the children are old enough to understand them, and from the belief that legacy is something that must be protected, even if it destroys the family in the process. Elizabeth's presence reinforces this idea perfectly. Her fight isn't villainous, it's human. She represents every voice that was pushed aside, every